This is my district too, did you know that?
Oh, so no, yeah, we share some territory there.
Oh, I know.
Guys, I'm going to also take my mask off when I speak because I can't use my glasses.
Yeah. Is that? Oh, okay. All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria. Pleased to be with you all this morning. I have a number of special guests that I'll introduce in just a moment. Want to off the top just share that we had an opportunity just now to tour the convention center as it prepares to welcome several hundred young women later this evening. We did that with a pool camera from KFMB, and that video is available to all of you if you didn't already have that heads up. But wanted to make sure that everyone has the visuals from today, what we're trying to do to make this the best possible circumstances for these young people who will soon arrive in San Diego. I'm joined this afternoon by our congressional delegation, Congressman Scott Peters, Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs, Congressman Mike Levin, and Congressman Juan Vargas. On behalf of the County of San Diego is Vice Chair Supervisor Nora Vargas, and unfortunately unable to be here today in person, County Chairman Nathan Fletcher, but his staff is here present on site and joined us during the tour. We also have representation from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, South Bay Community Services, which is a nonprofit local partner providing case management services on site, as well as Rady's Children's Hospital, which will be the lead on healthcare services for the young people here at the convention center. And of course, by representatives from our fantastic San Diego Convention Center, who is used to welcoming people from all around the world here to this facility. They'll have a special series of guests for the next number of weeks, as usual, knocking it out of the park when it comes to making sure that people know that San Diego is a welcoming city. We are here because we were asked by the U.S. federal government to provide a temporary home for young people, unaccompanied minors who are at our U.S.-Mexican border and who need a place to go that is safe and will keep them well cared for while we do the important work of reuniting them with families or sponsors either here in the U.S. or elsewhere. We are in less than a week's time have come together in an unprecedented collaboration that I think is indicative of the way we do business in San Diego, of saying that we'll put aside every ego and every agenda and just make sure that we do right by the people we're here to serve, in that case, our children. I want to share with the public that we will be welcoming exclusively female unaccompanied minors, ages 13 to 17. The first of those young people will arrive this evening. We don't have a time specific at this point, and they will reside here through the middle part of July, or at least various cohorts. We expect, again, 500 today. We will expect some more next week until we get to our full capacity of 1,450 sometime expected next week. I want to just, before turning it over to Congressman Peters, whose district we are in, I want to thank every San Diegan who has been in touch about wanting to be helpful of this particular effort. When we were called by the federal government last week and asked whether or not we could provide some help to these young people, myself and County Supervisor Fletcher said yes immediately, because he and I both know this city, we know this region, we know that San Diego is a welcoming community, and we don't mean that just in words, but we mean that by our actions and by our deeds. And what we're doing here is animating and making clear that we are a welcoming city and we will provide for these young people. These are children. This is the right thing to do. And San Diegans will always do the right thing. Americans will always do the right thing. I think this shows not just the best of our city, but the best of our country. For those of you who've asked how you can be helpful, I'd ask for your patience as we stand up this operation. South Bay Community Services, again, is our lead local provider, and they would be the appropriate agency to contact if you want to make a contribution, a donation, a volunteer effort of some kind. In the coming days, we'll provide more infrastructure around that to take those welcoming efforts by many San Diegans and allow you to be helpful. There are restrictions on that. We're not seeking a tremendous amount of donated goods or materials. A lot of that is already here on site. But for folks who may want to volunteer or who want to contribute to support, I'd encourage you to look at the nonprofits who will be operating on site and ask them how you can best help them. With those introductory comments, it's a pleasure to introduce our congressman for this district, Congressman Scott Peters. Scott?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you're doing here. As some of you may know, my father is a retired Lutheran minister, and it's not unusual for me to think about circumstances like this when we're called on to care for the most vulnerable as we begin Holy Week. And I know my colleague Juan always quotes from the book of Matthew, so I'm going to steal his thunder a little bit. And and offer you this passage. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you took me in. That's what I'm thinking of today as we begin to prepare to shelter a few hundred of God's children this week. I have visited, as my colleagues have, refugee and child intake facilities in Texas and in other parts of California over the years. It's no secret that Border Patrol facilities were not built to house children. Frankly, they weren't built to house anyone for any extended period of time. I want to thank the Biden administration for looking for better quarters than we've had, and I want to thank Mayor Gloria and the City of San Diego for your leadership in offering this place, and also the county supervisor, Chairman Fletcher, and also Supervisor Vargas and her colleagues for being here today, for saying yes. This is not the answer to immigration reform, right? This is not the answer to asylum reform, but it is, or even the answer for hundreds of girls who will rest their heads here over the next few months. They're going to have a tough journey, but my colleagues here before you are happy for this act of compassion, and we're all committed to solving the bigger problem. The House passed 2 significant bills to do this already, and we're working on others on immigration. We hope fervently that the Senate will join us to reform immigration for the benefit of our border and our economy. So our action here today and over the next few months is not to fix all that. This is an act of compassion, neighbor to neighbor. This convention center is located within the congressional district I represented. It's not lost on me that this used to be represented by one of the most anti-immigrant voices in Congress. Yet here we are today, 4 of the 5 members of the San Diego delegation, alongside the mayor to say to these strangers, welcome to these children. And we welcome them with a promise to do whatever we can to keep them safe until they get to their sponsor families or their next destination. Every bit of this is being reimbursed by the federal government, as is appropriate. FEMA and HHS are contracting directly with the service providers and covering all the costs of this over its 3-month lifespan. And then the federal government will cover the costs of getting this convention center put back together and ready to host its first convention in over a year this coming August. This will not be perfect. Don't expect it to be. It will have challenges along the way. And if it does, I hope the media and others will give some grace and understanding and trust that everyone involved here is really trying to do the right thing for these kids. I know as a member of Congress, I have asked that I have access to see how these things are going, and as kids come in, I intend to come back and visit later on. If I see something wrong, I will report it, ask that it be fixed, and I want transparency so we all know what's going on. But for now, I want to say how grateful I am that our city is showing compassion in this moment. Now I'd like to turn it over to Juan Vargas, my colleague who's been working on these issues for 20 years, and I hope I didn't steal your thunder. But if you say it again, maybe they'll remember.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the City of San Diego. I've always believed that the City of San Diego is America's finest city, and they're proving it here today, and I think that we have America's finest mayor here in Todd Gloria. Thank you for saying yes to these children, these girls. These are all girls that are coming here. As you probably know, girls have particular dangers when they travel. They do. As Kobe Bryant said, you know, I'm a girl dad. I have 2 girls. I know that. And so for the city and for the county to come forward and to say that they'll do this really does show that we're America's finest community here. And I want to appreciate them first and foremost. Now, the federal government, we're doing what we're supposed to do. And that is that these girls have arrived in a legal way. The law allows them to come forward and to say, we're seeking asylum. They can do that under American law and international law. They then have these rights, and the rights to be able to see if they qualify as an asylee to be able to stay in the United States. So they're doing it right. But can you imagine the trauma that some of these girls have faced on the way here? Can you imagine how difficult it's been for them? And so when they arrive, thank God we have a community like San Diego that doesn't yell and scream and beat up on the bus as they arrive. Instead, we have a community that does in fact follow Matthew 25. You know, Matthew 25 is so important. You know, it says, when I was hungry, you gave me to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. When I was a stranger, you welcomed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was sick, you healed me. When I was in prison, you visited me. And of course, then they ask, well, when did we do that? And of course, Jesus said, when you did it to the least among us, you did it for me. And that's what we're doing here today. San Diego is taking the least among us and welcoming them here. And I hope we all do. I know I've already, even coming here, I saw some voice of hate and rage outside, which is too bad. But that's not the majority of San Diegans. The majority of San Diegans understand that these girls need help. The majority of San Diegans understand that we're doing the right thing here. So again, I want to thank in the most profound way the city of San Diego for having the courage to say yes, the county to be an incredible partner, South Bay Community Service who needs your help. They need help now to help these girls. And so again, I want to appreciate everyone that's here and appreciate my community, America's finest community. Thank you. I don't know who goes next.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Juan. And thank you to HHS and FEMA for working around the clock to make sure this site will be a safe space for children. I'm grateful that our city is able to answer the call to provide this much needed support. And that Juan, Scott, Mike, and I are able to do our part to ensure that our federal and local partners are working together in this effort. I've met with our immigration agencies, advocates, and ORR, and it's clear that having more HHS space is the key to ensuring that kids are not detained 1 second longer than they should be. I want to thank the folks at FEMA and HHS who are leading a government-wide effort to quickly move these kids and others out of Custom and Border Protection facilities. I'm proud to represent San Diego in Congress and to hear every day from constituents who want a more compassionate approach to immigration. We all know that what we have now is broken, and as you've heard from my colleagues, we know that the policies of chaos and fear and family separation are not just inhumane, they're ineffective. I'm grateful that President Biden and Vice President Harris have are committed to getting this right and to building a system that restores order and fairness to the legal asylum process and keeps families together. I'm looking forward to working with Vice President Harris to address the root causes of migration and make sure we're being good partners in Central America as we address violence and corruption and a lack of opportunity. And I'm proud that Congress has already prioritized legislation that puts dignity and humanity back into our immigration system. But I think something that's important to say here, and that I know some of my colleagues have already addressed, but I think often gets lost in these conversations when we use words like UAC or unaccompanied minor or migrant. These are children. Plain and simple, children. And in a different twist of fate, they could be your children, or they could be my children, or they could be my great-grandmother Bertha, who at the age of 14 came by herself to the United States seeking refuge from persecution for being Jewish in Russia. They're children. They're not a political football. They're not a talking point or a photo opportunity or a statistic. They are children who have already suffered so much already. Children who we have a moral duty to make sure that they are welcomed and have a safe and secure place to be until we can reunite them with their families. You know, my colleagues mentioned Matthew. I'm Jewish, so I'll have to remind everyone that tonight starts Passover. The holiday every year where we remember that we were once strangers in a strange land, and that it is our unique duty to welcome the stranger, because it could one day be us again too. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to my colleagues, and I'm so excited that San Diego is able to play our part. Mike?
Well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you to my congressional colleagues, Scott and Juan, for all that you do. I want to just again call out the tremendous leadership of Mayor Todd Gloria. This is a compassionate community, and that's evidenced by what's happening here right now. I want to thank FEMA and HHS for all their great work, our new Secretary Javier Becerra, and the Biden-Harris administration. As I was walking through and seeing where these young girls will spend the evening, and for many it'll be a number of weeks that they're here, I was thinking of my own grandparents, and specifically my mom's parents. You would not know this by looking at me, certainly you wouldn't know it by my last name,
but my mom's parents came from Mexico when they were young children. My grandma was 3, my grandpa was 12, and I wondered, as I was walking through, seeing the type of environment that's being provided here, whether my own grandparents, many decades ago, what their experience was and whether the same type of experience that they had, where they were welcomed in this country, would even be possible today, where they had 5 girls, all of whom went to college, and then their youngest grandchild became a member of the House of Representatives. Now, of course, my mom married a Jewish guy from Chicago, so happy Passover to everybody who celebrates. But it's very personal. These are very hard issues. And the bottom line, I think, is that we now are at a precipice where both parties can come together and they can focus on actually solving the challenges of immigration rather than just trying to have the issue of immigration as a political talking point. Enough is enough. Let's come together, let's get it done. As Scott mentioned, we just passed 2 very important bills in the House of Representatives, the DREAM Act and the Farm Worker Modernization Act. Those 2 bills would go a long way towards a more just and humane system in this country. And the false choice that too many people want to make is between security and humanity. We can have both. I know we can have both. And what I see here is I visited the convention center today thanks to the leadership of the mayor, thanks to our great Board of Supervisors and Supervisor Fletcher, who's not here, Supervisor Vargas, is we have a secure location that is treating people with humanity. So, like my colleagues, we'll be coming back, we'll be seeing the progress, we'll be hoping and wishing for the very best for each and every one of those who will be here in the coming weeks. Who's next? With that, I want to introduce my dear friend who's doing a great job for the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, Nora Vargas.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nora Vargas, Supervisor for District 1. You're actually sitting in District 1 right now for the County of San Diego. And, you know, on behalf of Chair Fletcher and myself and the rest of my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors, you know, when we got the call last week from the federal government that they needed our help, we couldn't do anything more than actually figure it out. That's what we did. We came together, and with Mayor Todd Gloria, the convention center staff, our county employees, and everyone else, to really do what we do best in San Diego was we are a welcoming community. And that's what we did. We put our heads together, we figured it out. So I just wanted to take some time to just remind everyone, right, that these are 13 to 17-year-old girls. These are girls, these could be your niece, these could be your daughters. You know, as an immigrant myself, I've seen the horrific situations that many members of our communities have been dealt with, particularly in Latin America. And so for us to be able to extend a hand and be able to support the people when they need it the most, it's what we're supposed to do. This is government working for the people when they really need it. And so I am grateful to everyone, and I do want to say thank you to all of the staff who has been working round the clock to make this work. Chair Fletcher and I knew that this is what we needed to do, and we're grateful to Mayor Todd Gloria for standing up with us. We're going to continue to monitor it. We're going to make sure that they're safe and they're healthy, because the conditions that they were in were inhumane, and it's unacceptable that this is happening in our region. Así que muchísimas gracias a todos por acompañarnos ahora. Mi nombre es Nora Vargas, soy la supervisora del Distrito 1. Ustedes están en el Distrito 1 por el momento. Para mí este tema es un tema muy importante como inmigrante. Este tema humanitario es uno que es crítico para nuestras comunidades. Sabemos que el problema migratorio es un problema muy grande a nivel de nuestras comunidades, que nuestras comunidades están sufriendo en Latinoamérica. Estas niñas que van a venir ahora necesitan que las tratemos bien, necesitan tener un lugar donde van a estar seguras, donde van a estar, se les va a poder dar alimento. Y es muy importante para nosotros hacer ese trabajo. Así que yo estoy muy agradecida al alcalde Todd Gloria, a mi colega supervisor Nathan Fletcher y a los demás por todo el trabajo que tenemos haciendo durante esta semana para que estas niñas las traten con el cariño y el cuidado que se necesitan y que se merecen, porque nadie debe tratarse inhumanamente. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos. Yo en realidad voy a seguir esperando que todo esté bien, que las niñas estén seguras, saludables, y ante todo que sepan que aquí las vamos a tenerlas aquí con manos abiertas para que ellas estén bien y últimamente lleguen a su lugar de reunificación, que es lo más importante para todos nosotros. Gracias.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Lembo with South Bay Community Services, SBCS. And it's wonderful that everyone has thanked us, but know that we have many partners to thank. Tonight, there'll be staff from New Alternatives Hair, San Diego Youth Services, the YMCA, Casa Familiar, and others that are participating with us. On Monday, more people will come. San Diego Office of Education, MAC Project, the Children's Initiative spent the whole week buying clothes for the young women and getting them hygiene kits. I also want to thank HHS. So anyone that thinks government workers work 9 to 5, I was on the phone last night with HHS at 11:30, and they were in DC. So it was 2:30 for them. And I know I wasn't the last phone call that gentleman was having. So they have just been wonderful and have been working around the clock. As far as donations, one of the ideas we have, because we are being reimbursed for our expenses with HHS, is that we'd like to start a fund for the girls so that when they leave here, they can leave here with some things. So for now, we're hoping one of the foundations will coordinate it, but for now, you can go on our website, SBCS, you can click on to donation, and just make sure that specify it's for this project. And we will make sure the money directly goes to the girls because we're being reimbursed enough to do this work. I also want to thank my staff that have day jobs who have been here at night. I think the last one left something like at midnight and will be here tonight and staying overnight. I want to thank the county staff that have just been beautiful, just making sure that we have what we need. And what I thought about this morning when I was making tea, hopefully I don't cry, is think about a mom in El Salvador. She's hoping that her girl finds people like this to take care of her. Thank you.
I don't mind that applause. You're welcome to applaud. Well said, Kathy. I hope you all caught that website. I hope you share it broadly. Make sure that folks who want to help and support, they can do that. I want to thank the comments that Kathy just made. I would say, in my own experience, from the very top of the agency, late night phone calls from our Secretary of Health and Human Services, his personal involvement has been very helpful in making sure that we could pull this all together in 6 days. I want to be clear and enumerate, if it's okay with everyone, because I want to be clear. This is not just COTS. What we're doing here are intensive case management, medical care, thank you, Rady's Children's Hospital, behavioral health care, educational services, recreational services, nutritious meals. We were watching convention center employees upstairs preparing dinner tonight, legal services, religious services, and probably more than anything, a safe place, right? So I want to just conclude by thanking, again, the convention center. While many of us were sleeping last night, Rip and his team were here setting up beds for these young people. They have done that after just coming off a successful year-long effort housing thousands of homeless people. He has not been able to catch a breath or take a day off. Rip, I'm deeply appreciative. I think you embody what is San Diego, a welcoming spirit, a can-do attitude, and getting stuff done. We will welcome these young women here later this evening. We look forward to the opportunity of showing the rest of the world how San Diego does stuff. We're a welcoming city. We're going to show the very best of this country. And I look forward to joining our congressional delegation and be back here again and again to make sure that what happens here meets the high standards of San Diego, that we see things that make us proud to be able to welcome. This is not an incarceration facility, but this is a place for reconnection to family, and we will be as transparent as we possibly can be with the general public, acknowledging the necessity for confidentiality for minor children, but understanding that this is a collective effort with taxpayer dollars, and we'll be as transparent as possible. With that, all of us are available to answer questions that any of you may have. Or we could do them one-on-one, whatever you all prefer. Sir. Okay.
In terms of the case management, is that going to be working with the kids to reunite them with their families or sponsors? Because of the estimate that HHS gave was 30 to 35 days. Obviously, we know hundreds of kids are showing up to work each day. Could that be expedited by more resources from South Bay Community Services?
I think I need to kick that to HHS or to South Bay Community.
Hi, everybody. My name's Pete Weldy, and I'm the site lead here at the Convention Center. That's a good question, and I want to answer in 1 second. I just want to thank everybody as well. There's a lot of thinking going on, but it's really important. We could not have done this without the city, the county, the Convention Center, support from the federal government, and there's been a lot of credit given to HHS today, but I really want to give credit to FEMA as well, who's been on the ground since day one. There's also just tremendous community energy here, and it's just really positive, and we're really ready to go tonight. To answer that question about the timeline for removing and sending kids to sponsors in the United States, we're expediting that as quickly as possible. Children right now in Customs and Border Patrol, as you know, are being held longer than 72 hours, which is why we're opening this center to get them out of Customs and Border Patrol custody and into HHS care where they belong, but they ultimately belong in a home, in a safe home with a family and a permanent sponsor. So there's a really robust case management system. I won't go into too much detail about it, but just please know that it's robust enough to meet the needs of these girls.
Quick question. How are you verifying that these girls do go to a sponsor or a family member? And then what's the next process after that? And is this the first shelter or center that holds somebody in California?
Yeah, I'll answer your second question first. This is not the first shelter in the United States. It is the first emergency influx site in California. There is another emergency influx site in Dallas, Texas. We've learned a lot of lessons from their work there. So this is the first in California, that's for sure. And it's also the first site to accept exclusively young women. And I'm sorry, what was your first question? Oh, case management?
Verifying that these girls are going to their sponsors, or they're carrying identifications, or are you finding their sponsors or their parents?
That's the intensive work that case managers do every day as quickly as possible to get these girls finding a permanent sponsor. There's a lot of verification of identity that happens to ensure that they are being received by the proper person when they arrive. These are distant relatives, cousins, siblings, other family members. That's the ideal, or they can find other permanent sponsors as well.
My follow-up to the federal delegation. A lot of the young people that are coming across the border actually did travel to the border. I've seen this with their families. They're being sent across alone because of Title 42 that the Biden administration is keeping in place based on, the CDC border. Do you agree with Title 42, which is in fact is separating people south of the border and adding to this influx of unaccompanied children at our border?
I'm not going to answer any questions on immigration policy. We're just here to take care of the young women that are here tonight.
Right. Can we get any of the politicians to answer your policy?
I think everyone up here acknowledges that this is not a perfect system, but we're bound by our international agreements and by our American values to deal with this humanitarian problem. And so I think that the whole asylum system probably needs a lot of attention. I think one of the things I think we probably all agree is that a lot of processing capability would really help deal with this in a good way too. But these are unaccompanied children at the border. Some of them came alone, some of them probably came accompanied, but a lot of them are fleeing some very, very difficult conditions in their home countries, and I think we're all committed to fixing this system and coming up with something that's better. Today, we're just offering compassion neighbor to neighbor, because we've seen the alternative, which is to sit in these rooms of chain link fences on floors with just foil mats, foil blankets, and this is a lot better. So today, we're making a little step in humanitarian aid. We've got a lot of work to do on immigration reform.
No. So the question was, how many children will we serve here over the course of the several weeks that we've have the space available? I don't think we have a number for that. What we know is our maximum capacity is 1,450. We'll have 500 tonight. We expect about 250 more on Monday. and then we'll see after that as we work our way up. What we understand is that the average length of stay is 35 days. And so over the course of from now until mid-July that we've committed to utilizing the site. I mean, there are people that are better skilled at math than me to figure out what the odds are, but we'll be serving a high number of people over that period of time. Yes. What I've been clear is that that's what's going to have to happen. We do have a book of business for August. We know there are lead-in times for these kinds of events to happen, but what we know right now is there is no use for this facility, and this is a public asset. People of this city own it. It could sit here vacant, doing nothing, or it can do something on behalf of thousands of kids who need it. So we've been clear that we have this space available through middle of July. We're making it available. After that, it's my hope that some of the issues that our and fantastic congressional delegation has can engage, lean in, and maybe provide the kind of infrastructure that I think was torn down over the last number of years for this kind of population. The administration understands they need to build that up again. This is a temporary emergency posture. And again, our goal would be that through a variety of things that our partners at the federal level can work upon, that San Diego will have done a significant thing over that period of time. But we do have a hard stop in July. I don't know that I can answer that question other than my observation that, even without the commitment of this facility, plenty of folks were coming, right? There are parents making impossible choices that you and I can't possibly imagine choosing to send a child into, but they're making those choices. All that we're saying is that to the extent that happens, that we are doing our part as human beings to make sure that those children are as safe as possible. In terms of what choices other folks have made, they're making them long before San Diego raised its hand and said we are willing to be a part of a solution here. And again, we're only doing it temporarily. I recognize a lot's happening at the federal level. I'm just grateful that we have Scott, Mike, Juan, Sarah there on our behalf advocating for a better solution than certainly what we've been getting the last 4 years.
That's a good question. In terms of the Dallas Convention Center site, I don't have a whole lot of insight into that, but the lessons that we learned were taking their daily schedules, their recreation times, all of that stuff has been able to help us stand up this center a lot more quickly than we might have been able to otherwise, learning lessons from that. Also learning lessons from Operation Shelter to Home, which also was just here. That's been tremendously helpful. In Dallas, we've learned a lot of lessons about medical, about the unique needs of this population, and are working around the clock to address that.
If I can just hop on that. If I may, I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Eric Johnson, the mayor of Dallas. I've been in communication with him and his team. There are some lessons learned there. What I would point out is that facility is actually operating, I believe, hosting a women's volleyball competition this weekend while simultaneously providing a migrant shelter and a vaccination site. So what I'm trying to say is that you're able to integrate this into the community in a way that I think is going to be just fine. But I definitely appreciate Mayor Johnson's help and advice to the city of San Diego on how we can do this not only as well as they're doing it, but hopefully better, maybe a little bit of a competition. But he's a good guy. He's doing a good operation there, and we want to match or exceed their levels.
Okay, one more question.
Anyone else? Yeah.
You said the facility was available for the city through the department. The federal government paid the city for use during the time it was being used, or the city donated to you?
No, the city, there is a reimbursement agreement. I don't know, Rip, can you help? I hate to put you on the spot.
It's being reimbursed to actual cost based on rent and utilities and labor.
Thank you. Good enough? All right. Did everyone get that? Okay, awesome. Thank you all very much for available one-on-one. Appreciate you being here. And again, check out CBS 8 KFMB for that pool footage from inside. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.